Today we're going to jump right in with my stone coat countertop makeover in my kitchen. Here I am just mixing up regular automotive primer and using that to go around all the edges and my one seam here by the sink, and then I sand all that down and make sure that everything is nice and smooth. Depending on how much hardener you mix in makes it dry really fast, which I wanted. So here I didn't even get to finish working with it before it had already dried. So just keep that in mind. And I also used a product called Red Guard, which you see here on the bottom of the countertop, just in case any water leaked under or anything. I had that extra water barrier there by the sink. And here's the finished seams after they've been sanded, and now it is time to start using my stone coat countertop, which you see here. The entire kit cost me less than $150. Here I'm just taking a piece of tape and getting all the little fuzzies off, because when you're working with epoxy you definitely don't want that in your epoxy, because then you're going to have to reach in and get it out, or it's going to leave a bubble or you'll be able to see it. Now I'm stirring up my undercoat, which is white, and then I'm just going to paint all of the plywood white. And I'm going to go back and sand it with 220 grit sandpaper, and I do that 2 more times. I put down 3 coats just because I wanted it to be super white underneath, and I felt like after just 2 coats I could still see the plywood underneath, but that's a personal preference. I just wanted to take a quick second and introduce myself. This video is a little bit different than all of my other videos, but my name is Brandy. I'm a wife and mama to 3. I do work outside of the home, but I love to clean and do DIY projects, and this kitchen remodel has been a chore, but we're getting there, and hopefully we're almost done. But this countertop project has by far been my baby. It was the initial reason that we started the project, and I am super happy with the product and how it turned out. So if you guys are here from the stone coat countertop page that I posted on, and folks that wanted to see my video, I'm so glad you're here. I hope you enjoy the video, and maybe you'll decide to stick around and subscribe to my channel for more. This is a couple of days later. I didn't film the second coat, so this is the third coat that I'm going to lay down, and then I'm going to go ahead and sand it again with 220 and take the tack cloth and clean it up really well, and then I'm going to prep my entire area to lay the epoxy. So I'm going to put all of my plastic down and just make sure that it doesn't get on anything important. And now I am just taking a heavy duty plastic that I picked up at Lowe's or Home Depot, I can't even remember, and I'm going around and protecting all of the cabinet fronts with that and taping along the sink so I don't get any epoxy drips in my new farmhouse sink. The one thing I forgot are the 2 little holes that my husband had pre-drilled for the faucet and my garbage disposal button. I didn't cover the underneath of that with plastic, and he went to plumb the sink today, the day that I'm filming this voiceover, and lo and behold, I had epoxied the pipes shut. So he has to redo all that plumbing. He's not very happy with me, but it'll just take a few minutes, and next time I know to cover those holes. And this is the next day, and today is the initial pour day. I'm going to take my white glitter base epoxy and I'm just going to pour it all over my surfaces. This product was super easy to work with as I poured it out on the surface and troweled it out to get it as even as possible before I started chopping it. It wasn't tacky at all. I thoroughly enjoyed working with it, and it's not in any way sponsored or anything, but I've watched so many videos and so many other companies' videos, and I ultimately decided to go with Stone Coat because of how easy the product was supposed to be to use, and it truly lived up to that expectation. Every single thing about this particular corner in my kitchen I hate. I can't reach it. I can't do anything in there. At this particular point is where I ended up getting epoxy all over my shirt, so I definitely recommend wearing clothes that you don't care anything about, and I knew that going into it, but I mean, this corner is just, I can't even imagine why somebody would design it like that. Now that I've got everything troweled, I'm going to go in and chop the initial glitter kind of white coat, and I truly think that this gives it such a depth and dimension. If I hadn't done this, I could definitely tell a difference and don't think that I would be as happy with it. I just kind of went through and just jabbed the brush in all over in no particular motion. I went over some spots more than once, and it truly does give it just a movement and such a natural look. On this first coat, I was sort of scared of the torch, and I used my husband's heat gun to try to get the bubbles out. I do not recommend this. I definitely recommend using the torch, because once this dried, I had to go back and sand a couple of spots that had some bubbles in it. It did come out, but I just don't recommend doing it this way. And then here you can see the depth that the chopping of the initial coat gives. I mean, you can see that glitter in there, and it truly looks like marble. And these are the countertops before I put any of the veining in. And then I had mixed just a small amount of the epoxy with the black glitter dust that they send. And I just have a plastic knife that I'm using that I mixed it with. And then I'm just running lines through, and then I will chop it in. One thing that I did do that I don't think is in their video is I also mixed the base white paint with a little bit of epoxy to go back in and add some white highlights throughout. I think it just gives it a little bit of extra, and every piece of marble that I looked at prior to deciding to do the epoxy had some white highlights in it, so I felt like that would just give it a more natural look. And I tried not to go overboard. I just kind of put a few throughout and beside the gray veins that I put in with the black glitter. And then I'm just going in and chopping it in until it is looking the way that I wanted it to look. I wanted a very natural, almost white kind of marble. I didn't want a whole lot of deep veining or anything like that. And depending on the look that you're going for, I would be very, very cautious with your black. I would say I used maybe 3 tablespoons total of black over the entire project. I would say go very light, and then go back in if you feel like you need more, because you can always chop more in, but you can't take any out. And that's what I was terrified of, was going too dark. Now that everything is kind of the way that I wanted it to look, I'm going back and taking the saturated brush and doing kind of the underside of the lip and just getting all of those drips and making sure that I get those edges covered in the epoxy as well. Here I'm just going back with the heat gun just to give it a little bit of movement and put some final touches in it just to blend the black and the gray together. And this is the final product. This is what it looks like before I sand it and put my top coat on. I could not be more happy with how it turned out. I did not practice at all. I did watch a lot of videos, but I was afraid that if I practiced, I would psych myself out. And here I'm just showing you all of my little imperfections that I had to go through and sand out. We do have dogs, so I had quite a few dog hairs in there that I had to take care of, and I ended up taping and like barricading off the entire kitchen before I did my top coat so that that wouldn't happen. And I'll show you in a few clips what I used to try to rectify that. You don't need no space. Just follow me. Like a mirror, you reflect me. Like a Friday night on the weekend, I feel blessed and free. I just don't want this moment to end. But now you say you gotta go. Baby, why you gotta go? Like a mirror, you reflect me. I just don't want this. I just don't want this moment to end. Don't jump into that car tonight. I'm not leaving without a fight. And here I've just taken a 220 grit and put it on the sander, and I'm just hitting all of the little imperfections and going over everything before I lay my final top coat. You don't need no space. Just follow me. Like a mirror, you reflect me. Like a Friday night on the weekend, I feel blessed and free. I just don't want this moment to end. But now you say you gotta go. Baby, why you gotta go? Like a mirror, you reflect me. I just don't want this. I just don't want this moment to end. Here I'm just using a tack cloth that I bought at Lowe's, and I am making sure that I get all of the dust, any hair, any particles, and everything off before I lay that final top coat. Here I'm just mixing the epoxy. I used equal parts of A and B to make 64 ounces for the top coat. I truly thought it was in the frame, but all you can see is the drill, so sorry. As you can see, this time I was a little less scared and I just went to pouring and poured everything out, and then I get right to troweling it out and making it even as possible, and then I will go in with the brush that came with the kit. I'll chop it again just to make sure that I get a good coverage. I end up going back and finding a couple of spots close to the wall where the epoxy didn't get to, and I have to add some more. Here I am back in this corner again, and I ruined this shirt in the exact same spot. And this is just me chopping in the top coat and hitting all of the edges. And now it is time to torch all of the air bubbles out. This is the final product. It is not dry in these photos, but they're at the very end, so stick around and see those. So earlier I told you I would tell you how I handled the little dust pieces and the dog hairs that ended up getting in my top coat before it could completely dry. So I had a single little bristle right here from the brush, and what I did is I kept it right there, and I came in and checked every little bit, and if it was a little speck of dust, I would take that bristle and I would poke it down in the top coat so that it wouldn't be visible or you wouldn't be able to feel it on the top coat. And if it was a dog hair that ended up getting in there somehow, I used that bristle to help me pull it out, and then I just kind of took the torch and ran it back over that area really quick, and everything laid out flat and fine, and I have 0 imperfections in my countertop because of that. So this is the main part of the kitchen, and these are now complete. We also have this area where I'm going to be making an L-shaped bar with a smaller little bar up top there. I will also be filming that and showing a little more in detail how I do my chopping, and these are kind of an above photo of the project. I hope you guys truly enjoyed this video. It was super fun for me. If you did, I hope you give it a thumbs up, and I'm happy to chat with you or answer any questions down in the comments below. Thanks, guys. Bye.